21, in case 492 Roy Finesse, case 247 Raymond Desperville, case 487 Marie Esparon and Julius Adrien, and case 184 Jonas Chico.
Thank you. Can you please call the witness?
Raymond Desperville.
Well, I think I should use the full surname. I, Charles Raymond Daugé Desperville, do swear that the evidence that I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Can I take off my mask?
We'll be in trouble with the health authorities. We did get in trouble, me in particular, because I kept touching my mask and moving it down. So I'm reformed.
Looking forward to when the president says we can take these masks
Yeah.
off. Well,
So thank you very much, Mr. Desperville, for appearing before the Commission today. Our apologies, you were scheduled at 11, so this is your second visit to our premises today. So thank you for being so flexible. We appreciate it very much. So you were the complainant in this case, so we would like you to set out your complaint before us. Please take your time, and if you need to adjourn at any time, let us know, and we're happy to accommodate you. And I understand you're going to speak in English, is that correct?
absolutely, yes.
Fabulous for me, right?
Yeah.
I'll be able to understand you. So the floor is yours. Thank you again.
All right. Okay. Madam Chair, members of the Commission, first of all, if the odd swear word comes out, I apologize, and it can be blipped out of the evidence or whatever. I'm quite a passionate person, and I suppose I'm known for calling a spade, and sometime, for want of trying to say something, the odd swear word comes out, and so please accept my apologies beforehand. And you know, obviously as a founding member of Party Seychelles and all that, the Truth and Reconciliation
You were a founding
Commission,
member. You were a founding member of Party Seychelles.
yes, very much so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Jean-François and Wavell, yes.
Aha.
Yes, I was. And so, yes, I mean, one of the things we sought for so much was what we are seeing here today, so that our country can move forward and heal. Yeah, so I was so happy when we had got the majority in the Assembly that we were able to push this thing through. And yes, when it was established, I don't know when I came, I wanted to give my evidence. But I mean, I suppose I'm busy. I'm a bit of a workaholic. I'm always working, trying to work. And I started my preparing for a submission. And I suppose like everyone else, you know, I watch. I don't watch it all the time, of course, because in the daytime I'm working. 68, I'm still working. Working like a slave. Despite man alive, I've worked hard in this country and I have very little to show for it. Like many people, hey, you know, what I'm saying now is others suffered, Jesus, you know, I'm alive, man. I'm still alive. And I suppose I don't have much material wealth to show for it, but my God, I'm a billionaire when it comes to experience. That's for sure. Anyway, getting back, as I said, I said, yeah, I want to go. I want to tell them everything. And as I started listening to some of the things that people have suffered, I said, shit, Raymond, you know, what are you complaining about? What are you complaining about? You know, people tortured, disfigured, bodies cut, people burnt. And I just, you know, give it a break. But I suppose after a while, you know, guys, when you see some of the people who've benefited and are still walking around with their stolen millions and billions and flaunting it, oh, man, there's got to be justice somewhere. Got to be justice somewhere. And I suppose, yeah, I said, Remo, come on, because my story is the story of the business community under Albert René, the murderer, the criminal, the thief, the terrorizer, and his gang. And his gangs changed over a period of time. How they made certainly the business community lived in total and utter fear. And I suppose my story, well, it's the story of many other people in business. Those who had the courage to stand up and say things. The crazy ones, yeah, Dusbeville's mad. Ha. Give me a break. Anyway, so yeah, I finally built up the courage and I phoned up the original person who was doing my case had now left, and Adele took over, and I know at this last moment I'm very grateful. I know you guys have had to rearrange things so that I could come here, and so that you could hear me and what I have to say. So here I am, and prepared to try and give my side of the story. So who is Raymond Dusbeville? Well, obviously I'm Seychelles. I'm very proud to say, well, Doge Dusbeville or Dusbeville is not very common. It's my grandfather was Mauritian, and my father was born here. But on my mother's side, well, again, you don't choose your surname. My mother was a Jean de Saint-Jean. And so for those of you who know your history of the Seychelles, you'll know the Jean de Saint-Jean family was the first, amongst others, to land here 250 years ago. So I think my credentials as a Seychellois are pretty hot. Direct descendants from the first boat. Yeah, people to this day don't know I'm Seychellois. Yeah, anyway, I can tell you, there's no one more Seychellois than I am. Anyway, when I was a year old, my family left, and I've got to tell you a little bit about my history so that you can understand. When I was a year old, my family left. We went to live in what was then Rhodesia, now called Zimbabwe. Grew up in a very poor white family. I suppose because we were white, yes, we were way ahead of the poor blacks. I mean, way ahead. It was, okay, Rhodesia wasn't as bad as South Africa, but wasn't very nice being a black man there, I can assure you, when the white minority regime was in charge. But anyway, I grew up in that environment, went to school, did my A-level, didn't get good enough grades to get a scholarship, and I started to study chartered accountancy In my day, you could do chartered accountancy if you had your A-levels and you served 5 years articles. And obviously you passed your society exams, and after 5 years you passed everything, you became a chartered accountant. During that time, I got my first exam, intermediate. As you all know, Rhodesia was fighting a civil war, a horrible, horrible civil war. And like all able-bodied white men, I was called up. But I had, how should we say, I was, I suppose, hippie generation. I started revolting against my parents, the system, when I was 17, 18. Asking mom and dad, how come the black people sit at the back of the church and the white people sit in front, and et cetera, et cetera. So, and I think I was, the glaring inequalities of the Rhodesian system were shown to me. I came here in 71 on holiday. It was just after the BI, or the plane started. It was my first year of work at the age of 19. And it was a revelation to me. Okay, having come, guys, you've got to know what it was like to have lived in white Rhodesia, okay? And coming here and seeing people, different colors, and this, okay, already, as I said, I was becoming a typical left-wing, left-wing hippie, smoke a lot of dope, down with the establishment and all that sort of thing. And it was a revelation. Wow. There they are, these people, different colors, and they knew more about things than I did. And all our life we've been taught that, blacks could only be gardeners and this and that, and it even radicalized me even more. But one thing it did do, made me fall in love with my country, and I said, my God, this is a multiracial democracy. Whew. When you've lived in Southern Africa and colonial Africa and the Brits, okay, I mean, there were some countries where things were okay, but anyway, as you all know, Rhodesia had a lot of blood, a lot of suffering, a lot of unnecessary fighting and wars. Anyway, so, as I said, I was forced to do my national service like everyone else. And I said, well, if I'm going to have to do it, I may as well try and do the best. And I applied to become an officer, but with only the intention of doing my national service, not becoming a regular officer. So anyway, 250 applicants, I think, for the first trials or tests, and we were whittled down to 25. Admission into the School of Infantry. The School of Infantry was based on Sandhurst, one of the finest military institutions this world has ever known, on a par with West Point, Sassia, you name it, okay? And yes, after 4 months, man, I did it. Little Raymond d'Esperville, second lieutenant. My God, I must have been the proudest little guy the world has ever seen. The little rebel, the little left-winger. Now a second lieutenant in the Rhodesian army in one of the finest fighting little forces of the day. Man for man, the Rhodesian army was as good as anything. Any English army, any Israeli army, you name it. Man for man, they were good. Obviously, the cause they were fighting for was wrong. But soldier to soldier, you couldn't get better training than the Rhodesian army. So I went through the war, and we're not going to talk about that because that's something I've tried to tried to bury as far back of my mind as possible. But it is one of the skeletons that I suppose I have to eventually sort out, and I hope to do it when there's a change of government in Zimbabwe. And I hope, yes, some people think they know my history. Yes. Yes, I was court-martialed. My crime was subverting my troops. It was never shown in the court-martial. They accused me. What are they saying? I've seen the documents. This man is a political volcano. Yeah. Anyway, that's something else, and we don't have to worry about that, but I got through that and came back to my country, Seychelles, in 1978. To leave behind, yeah, I wanted peace. It's not as though I didn't like Rhodesia. I loved Rhodesia. In fact, when I came here, I said to myself, the opportunities are here. I'm going to go up very quickly. I've been well trained. I will rise up very quickly, hopefully make some good money, and I'll be able to reinvest in Rhodesia, or what it became Zimbabwe. And obviously, I hate the name Rhodesia. I call myself, if I am going to call myself, I'll call myself white Zimbabwean. I do not associate with white Rhodesia, never have and never will. As soon as I was old enough to understand, I was against it and did everything in my power as a young man to see that regime change. Now, let me just get back onto I tend to go off a bit. Anyway, so as I said, I came back in 78, hoping, yeah, I wanted to get to know my country, the Seychelles. But yes, guys, I lived in Africa all my life. And yes, to this day, I still stay. Sure, Seychelles is my #1 country, but very closely followed is Zimbabwe. When you've lived in a country like that for 25 years, I used to be able to speak Shona, which is the majority language. I was pretty fluent. You had to learn it. In fact, when you become an officer, I went into the Rhodesian African Rifles. Okay, the officers, the moment you get commissioned and sent to the RAR, they send you on a 6-week crash course to learn Shona, so that you can understand your troops. Obviously, all your troops, they speak English. But my God, doesn't it open your eyes when you can speak another man's language? And things that you didn't understand about that culture became so clear to you. Anyway, as I said, I left all of that and landed in the Seychelles in early 78. My first job I was admin manager of Bodco. Okay, I can tell you, back in Rhodesia, admin manager, I couldn't have got it. There was too much competition for the job. But by Seychelles standards, I was pretty well qualified. Okay, I had intermediate chartered accountancy, and at the time I was studying for a diploma in marketing management, which I was doing by correspondence. And I presume my character, I made a good impression, and my good friend and future business partner, Basil Sound, he offered me a job. I should say, in fact, wrong. My first job was to be the personal manager of the Reef Hotel. Michael, I was replacing you. What's his name? Jim Penman? Mike? Yeah. Mr. Green there had been the personal manager of the Reef Hotel. Yeah. And Jim Penman from Hallways, by correspondence, said, and man, I was impressed, because guys in Rhodesia at that time, even being considered a personal manager, I just couldn't believe it. I said, my God, this can't be happening to me. Anyway, and then my uncle Ivo Savi, the land surveyor, who was a director of Bodco at the time, is okay. I'm related to Yvon. His wife, Zita, was my mother's younger sister. And he said to me, he said, "Oh, Remo, you know, Basil, this guy in Bodco, are looking for an admin manager. And so why don't you go for an interview and see what's, you know, what it's all about?" And so I said, "Yeah, okay, let's go." Obviously, I made a good impression on Basil, and certainly he made a good impression on me. And I said, no. Personal manager, no. I thought I'd do better working with Bodco. And it was the right decision. And yes, even though we would argue in years to come, I thank Basil Soundy for opening a door for me, for the start of, guys, a career of which I am extremely proud. And those of people who have known me and worked with me know Raymond d'Espreville works. I'm a workaholic. Unfortunately, fortunately. I suppose that's why I'm still single. When you tell wives and girlfriends that business is first, windsurfing is second, fishing is third, and they are fourth, wow, you don't last too long in a marriage or in a relationship for that matter. So anyway, 11 months, and wow, I learned a lot with Basil. Okay, it was the Bodco. They had just moved to the new port. Some of you may know Bodco started in Bellom. In fact, Bodco stands for Bellom Development Company. That goes the acronym. And so as a little admin manager, oh, there was no air conditioning in those days. Wow. I can remember writing at my desk. No air conditioning, the afternoon sun coming in, and you are sweating and you're trying to move the paper around, you know, so that you won't sweat on the thing. But anyway, hey, it was great fun. And after 11 months, I was headhunted. Yeah. I started building up a reputation of being a good collector of money. As people know who have been in business with me, you don't want to owe Raymond d'Espreville money, or Bodco, or whatever company he works for. I was a good debt collector. Anyway, they headhunted me, a place called Builders Center. Builders Center at the time was owned by what we fondly called the Italian mafia. Sogis, Corrado Correas, and all that bunch. As you would remember, Corrado had owned Air Seychelles and Air Mahe, and the Pirates' Arms was his as well. Okay, so these Ocean Gate House they had done. And they owned Builders Center, and they had a very bad debtors list. And I suppose because I had screwed them so hard with money that they owed to Bodco, they said, my God, this is the chap who's going to clean up our debtors list. So, yeah, now, and they said to me, what are you earning? And they said, we give you double. Wow. I wasn't exceptionally well paid at Bodco to start off with. I mean, it was the sort of salary that went with the work at the time. But all of a sudden, 11 months, double salary, and a brand new company car. Oof. Guys, I was 27, 26. Coming from a poor white family, yeah, you goddamn sure I wanted more money. I worked there for about 11 years, but, you know, in that time, I kept my relationship with Basil. In fact, I even used to ask him sometimes. There was a system that I wanted to do or something. I'd phone him up and say, hey, you know, I'm going to do a costings book or a this book, as we used to do at Bodco. And how did you do it again? And things like this. And so we remained on very good terms, even though we were competing against each other. Because at the time, Builders Center competed against Bodco. Like Builders Center is now where Allied Builders have their head office, okay? That is the old Builders Center. Some of you, Michael, you would certainly remember. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be referring to you by your first name. You would certainly remember Builders Center. And so as I said, I kept my relationship with Basil. Good friends. He was a bachelor, so was I. And after about okay, I started having hassles with the shareholders. You know, I'm a funny guy. I mean, I love money, but I like clean money. It must be money earned from hard work. Hard work, not stealing. I don't like fast deals. I'm very suspicious of people who make money on fast deals. I'm old-fashioned. And the Italians, they were bleeding the company. And you know, they had equal signing power with me. So for example, even though I used to sign the checks, they too could go to the bank and withdraw money. And so I'd be cleaning up their debtors list, collecting up the money, and they'd be pulling it out as fast as I could bring it in. And I just said, guys, hey, this is not the way you run companies. You don't bleed your company. You know, you let it run properly. You leave it with enough capital to continue its operations. And I was getting hassled, and obviously I used to discuss this with Basil. As I said, he was a close confidant. And finally, I suppose then he, obviously seeing the progress that I was doing at Builders Centre, I'd got all sorts of agencies, my God. Breezeway, one of the most famous agencies of louvers in this country. The Breezeway louver decorates, I don't know how many business. It was me, Builders Centre, and I got all sorts of agencies. And finally, Basil, one day he phones me and says, look, Bodco want to expand. It's time for you to come back. You've had your experience, you've had your 3 years competing, and it's now time to come back. And if you don't come back, we're going to put you out of business, or something, put it this way. It was a combination of he and Harry Atkinson being the majority shareholder of Bodco, saying, we've got to get Remo back. If we're going to expand Bodco to what we want, we need to bring him back. He's had his 3 years training by himself. He's built up all these agencies. Wow. And I had some agencies that Bodco were very desperate to have. Yeah. I had learned. Basil had trained me well, but I learned as well. And the student was rapidly approaching the level of the teacher. Anyway, and so of course, Basil said, how much are Builders Centre giving you now? And I said, yeah, X. And he said, why? You know, of course. My salary again almost doubled. Car. But this time, general manager, not just general manager, group general manager, director. And the possibility to own shares. So I wouldn't just be an employee. Besides working for my salary, I'm now going to be part of the shareholders. But I'd have to prove myself. But that was, my path was shown. He said, right, if this happens, that's where you're going. Obviously, I jumped at it because, yes, Bodco and the shareholders of Bodco were 1,000,000 times more moral than the Italians that I'd worked for. So back to Bodco. Obviously, the government had, okay, as you all know, with Albert René in charge, progressively the government were easing into business, and all the horrors and evils of the one-party state were starting to manifest themselves. Initially, like many people, I almost hate to say it, I thought Albert René was a good man. My God, forgive me for saying it, forgive me. But a lot of intelligent people were fooled by this man. But then again, as I said, okay, I was a bit of a lefty. You know, it's what got me into all the problems in the Rhodesian army. My radical left-wing views. And again, coming from Rhodesia, coming here and seeing this model multiracial society. Maybe I was fooled by the words. I know it was the same in the days of Mankam, but I arrived after the coup. And so, yeah, as I said, I mean, okay, I have progressed politically, as have people of my generation. I mean, they say the old hippies, it was, grow your hair, smoke your weed, this and that, down with the establishment, and then you cut your hair, you put on a suit, and you get a job. Okay, that's me. And, anyway, but obviously after a while you realize how, that person gets arrested and you try and ignore it. I suppose this whole thing is about my forced resignation from the Bodco group. I suppose now I need to tell you a little bit more about Bodco. Anyway, continued working. I employed my first manager, a guy called Hubert Alton, young quantity surveyor. And because at the time, with Bodco expanding, I said, right, I'm not technical. My background is accounting and marketing. Basil's was, but I said, Basil, we need someone really into building materials. And I said, okay, let me find myself a smart young quantity surveyor. And I will teach him business, but he's going to teach me the technical, or give the support, the technical support. And Hubert Alton came, and wow, one of my finest young managers. But Basil wasn't an easy guy. Wasn't an easy guy. And finally, Hubert, I suppose he resigned, and his words were, Remo, the day you become managing director, I'll come back, but I can't work with Basil. Fine. Okay, so Hubert moves on, and all right, so I need someone else. I then employed a guy called Gilbert Chetty. Some of you, older generation, would remember him. He had worked for Well, and he was a civil engineer. Fine fella.
Can you expand on what was Well?
Oh, Works Enterprises Limited. Okay, this was the organization that came before SMB and Mukesh Vallabhji, the other monster. Okay, so Well was, Gilbert had worked at Well, Works Enterprises Limited. This was the government's move into business, okay? PWD became Well. In fact, they tried to, over the years, the government have tried to recruit me, I think the first time was Danielle de Saint-Jean. When she was, okay, as you know, I mentioned my mother was Jean de Saint-Jean. Danielle and my mother are first cousins. I am a second cousin to Danielle and Maryse. She was PS of Tourism, I think. Guy Sinon was minister at the time. And there was an Englishman, chief tourism officer. And Danielle, I remember her telling me, Remo, why don't you join? And we'll send you to university. And you'll take over from this Englishman. But again, I said, Danielle, I'm not into government. I mean, I'm private sector. I don't want to work for the government. And any country needs a good private sector. I mean, these are the people that drive, that create the wealth, create employment, pay the taxes. Another time was Maxime or Robert Grandcourt. I think of the time when Max Fayon died. Some of you will remember Max Fayon, that fine man, was MD of Well. And when he died, they tried to recruit me for that. And I said, guys, I think by the time I was back with Basil, I said, hey, I don't chop and change, and I'm very happy where I am. Other times, but I think Albert realized I was too honest to become one of his men. So, all right, so we're getting on to, how should I say, I suppose I have to show you what I had and what was taken away from me. I have to show you that before I can tell you how it was taken away from me. So anyway, we're getting back to my Bodco career. Gilbert Shetty joins me. What a guy, fine guy, and work well. Again, he gets headhunted now by Joe Albert. Now okay. And he says to me the same thing. He says, Remo, when you're in charge, I'll come back, but I can't work with Baz. But I had a way. I had a different relationship. I was like, Basil was there, I was there, and all my managers were there, and I was the conduit, you know. Whenever Basil would do something wrong, I'd go to him and say, hey, you know, that's wrong, and fix it up, and etc. I was the conduit. So Gilbert left. Oh, who did I get next? I think after Gilbert was Colin Adlin, the computer expert. I used to call him the Seychelles Bill Gates. This guy was a total whiz with
who was
computers.
that?
Colin Adlin. Unfortunately, he died tragically many years ago. Anyway, I don't want to speak about Colin. It's not a nice death, and a lot of question marks about it. But anyway, as I said, and I suppose when I left, okay, Colin was still there. He was one of the managers who managed to stay on. And when I left, he continued till he too couldn't handle Basil, and he left. In fact, everything just started crumbling when I left Bodco. I recruited George Gill. George, we owned pest control services. Basil was the expert in pest control. I wasn't. And obviously I'd learned about it, but I was on the financial management side. I remember telling Basil, I said, Basil, you're the only person who can go into a court and give expert testimony. If something happens to you tomorrow, who am I going to have? Because I do not have your technical knowledge in pest control. And so, yes, I went around headhunting, and I found myself the most capable pest control person in the Seychelles, other than Basil Soundy at the time, and that was George Gill. And after a lot of persuading and wow, I finally was able to get him to leave his post in the government and come and take over pest control services for us. He would be the technical side, and I would teach him the business, as I had done with other technical people. Francis Mordor. Francis, we recruited him for the hotel division. Okay, at the time we noticed there wasn't a specialized company providing services to the hotel industry in the Seychelles. We opened Bodco Hotel Supplies Division, it was called. And young Francis Mordor, at the time, a young tourism graduate, he was a hotel manager. He had done his degree in Utali College in Kenya. He was working at the Coral Strand, headhunted him, said, right, we'll teach you the business, you come with your technicalities. Yeah. Over the years, so you can imagine, okay, with Basil, my managers, each one leaving all the time, and yeah, we had some heavy discussions, Basil and I, over the years. Lots. I don't know how many times I resigned. I think I resigned 2 or 3 times at least. Yeah. Each time it would, okay, I'd resign, and he would call me back, and this and this and that, and I'm loyal, and you know, guys, and I was focused on becoming the majority shareholder of Bodco one day. That was my target. Till finally, and I have it all here. I have, Basil will recognize some of these. I keep everything. Keep everything. But the final proof was a letter I wrote to Basil, dated the 1st of November 1990. And, okay, the important part. Finally, okay, and I'll just quote verbatim from this letter. Finally, you have assured me that as and when Adonis SA was basically Harry Atkinson, who at the time owned about 60% of the Vodco Group, decides to dispose of their shares, that I will be given the right to purchase the controlling interest or even their whole shareholding, should I have the means to do so. All right. There, gentlemen, in black and white, and all the correspondence to go with it. I kept a lot. Controlling interest or even their whole shareholding, should I have the means to do so. Naturally, the agreements currently in force between the shareholders concerning the sale of shares would still apply. On this basis, I reaffirm my trust, confidence, and loyalty to you as CEO of the company. And obviously that was my final resignation being withdrawn and saying, okay, last time now. Because now I said, okay, I'll put up with the problems that goes with working with you. As he had problems with me. Okay, guys, it was a funny relationship. You know, we were like big brother and little brother, and we would fight, but it was constructive. It was I don't know. We had a way of making things work. Like people when Francis and George and these guys around used to call us the A-Team. I don't know if you remember the famous program. Yes. Yes. Considering how successful we came under this evil regime, yes, we were the A-Team. We were unbeatable. And that was part of my demise, because Mukesh Vallabhji just hated seeing me the way I could beat him in everything. Everything, despite all the advantages that he had. He had a chip on his shoulder, as you all know. I wasn't here when Mukesh was at school, but when I hear things of how, obviously, you know, saying he was the son of this and the son of that, Mukesh had a big chip on his shoulder, like did all these other people who were recruited to do the dirty work of Albert René. Georges Payet. Do we all remember Georges Payet? Pitou. Albert knew how to choose people with chips on their shoulders to do his dirty work, because he did not have the courage to do it himself. Albert is a coward, but he certainly knows how to find criminals and murderers to do his dirty work for him. I'm sorry if I'm... Yeah, you know, when I came and saying why I came back, guys. Yes, I carry a lot of hate. Things have been very unfair to a lot of people in this country. A lot of people have suffered. And when I think of a few of these idiots in the National Assembly today, making as though nothing happened, well, gentlemen, open your ears and listen to the evidence of people who've come here. Listen and stop trying to cover up what cannot be covered up. It's like people trying to justify what happened in Nazi Germany. Thank God the Germans haven't ever tried. But it really, wow, it upsets me when I hear people telling me what a good government they were. Yes, there were certain things they didn't do too badly. They didn't do too badly on the social programs, but then, hey, I'm an old SPUP. But without the coup, without the killings, without the murders, I'm an old SPUP like Guy Sinon, Carl Sabotage, Michael here, the vice chairman. There were a lot of good people who supported the SPUP in the early days. It isn't us who went off. We have kept our vision of social progress and justice in this country. It was these people who corrupted it totally. You know, Maxime, Ferrari, all these people, good people. They were very good people supporting SPUP to start off with. And we stayed. Just like the leadership of Parti Seychelles, the majority of us were old SPUP, disgruntled, because we were sick and tired of seeing these fine principles prostituted by this man. You know, let me try and get back to what I had. And so as I said, okay, yes, I now had guarantees, all things being equal, I would own 60% of Bodco. You know, and yes, the Bodco today, I mean, if me and that team had continued as we had, do you know what Bodco would be today? Guys, the Bodco I left was one of the most powerful companies in this country at the time. We had acquired, we acquired plumbing, Bob Barker Plumbing. Now became, Bob Barker Plumbing became Bodco Plumbing. We went into refrigeration division. We had hotel supplies. We did rattan cane, during the days of the national, I mean, when Georges Payet and Jacques Odoul were their national development, you know, let's try and make our own things. And we invested. We were the first and only company to make rattan cane furniture. Basil and I think over a game of snooker one night at my place, we said, let's try and do this ourselves. And yeah, we did. We brought people in from Mauritius. People remember. Okay? But you know, after a while, Mukesh, he started importing furniture to compete against us. After being encouraged by the government to say, hey, let's try and manufacture as much as we can. We set this thing up. We bring in workers from Mauritius. I've forgotten the name. A Chinese Mauritian guy, maybe. Anyway, the Mauritians were making a thing, and we brought the guys in, 6 workers, started training up Seychelles how to do this, and you know, we tried everything to work with this government. My God, wasn't easy. Wasn't easy. So, yeah, and you know, and so even today, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I'd have to go to the Mercs and see what the market capitalization of Bodco is today. But I can assure you, if I had stayed, Bodco would be 10 times bigger than it is today, and everyone knows it. I was the driving force. Yes, Basil and I, we worked brilliantly as a team. He was, okay, we had this good man, bad man, you know, in any big company. You need it. You need a hatchet man, and you need the nice guy. And we would alternate. But generally speaking, I was the hatchet man. I was the guy who got the dirty jobs done. But in business, you know, there's a difference. Because even a hatchet man in business has to follow certain rules and regulations. It's not as though, I mean, when you talk of the hatchet man of Albert René, you're talking of people who kill and torture. And so if we could just realize the difference between when I say I was the hatchet man in business, please, I hope everyone understands the difference. And let me try and get back. Well, so, yeah, so as I said, okay, we've got to say to ourselves, what would it have been worth? But I can tell you what, I certainly wouldn't be working. At 68, I'm still working like a slave. I would have been able to retire at the age of 55, 60, if I'd wanted to. Sit back, put my feet up, travel, whatever I wanted. And I'm a simple person. I don't need a lot. You can only own one. You can only live in one house. You can only drive one car. I'm a pretty simple guy at the end of the day. Yeah, I like the good life. But I've known days when 100 rupees was a lot of money to me. So, have money, yeah, I'll spend it and I'll have a good life. I don't have it, doesn't matter. I'll always be saying, one day things will get better. I'm the eternal optimist. I never see negative. I see no. One day it will change. Just like, yeah. I mean, please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm Mandela, but you know what I mean? When I think of all these things that I've been through and I say, Remo, shit, you know, you weren't in jail for 27 years or this or this or this or this. And so I just keep on remaining positive. So what would Bodco today, if Remo Desperville hadn't been forced to resign, be worth? And 60%, whew, guys, you're talking of some pretty serious money. Pretty serious money. And that was denied to me. Denied because I had the courage to stand up and speak. I had the courage to say, I am not all right, Jack. I was sick and tired of seeing people's businesses being stolen, land being taken, and Bodco still was doing all right. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to see us, the successful company, while everyone around was just being swatted down. The Mazorkis, their thing taken, and Trump, I mean, you name it. I mean, you've heard the things that the Tibolgis, I mean, every business person, my God, if they didn't, what's a nice way of saying kissing ass? Or a correct way of saying it? If they didn't pay, sorry? You were with us. Voila, exactly. My God, if you were with us, you could get away with murder. But if you were against, neutral, okay. Neutral, you could manage. I suppose, yeah, as I said, from starting thinking, Albert, René, okay. Yeah, I started questioning things. Yeah, I saying, shit, you know, this shouldn't happen. I remember once my good friend, and he suffered. My good friend Rod Jingwell. How that guy, man, I say chapeau Jean. You are my hero, brother. How you managed to live through what and this is why sometimes I say, you know, Remo, you're coming here and telling your story. Shit. Jean, what did Jean Jingwell go through? Locked up for I don't know how long. And he survived. Kathy, Mickey, I mean, so many people have just been... Whew. I can remember one day, in fact, this is when, you know, I started saying, I'm all right, Jack. Mukesh and Glennie was also, he was a bully. We used to call them Turbo and Fat Boy. That was from the Maserati scandal that's something else where they were so arrogant. They bought in these Maseratis, didn't pay the duty, underdeclared them. Poor James Michel tried to arrest them, but little did they realize, James didn't realize that Mukesh at that stage was more powerful than him. Mukesh was effectively the vice president of this country, as we all know. Corrupt, in with Albert. My God, weren't they stealing this country blind? Anyway, I'm sidetracking. Sorry, guys. What was the point I was getting onto?
So you started.
Yeah, guys. Okay, I'd
Yeah.
say if I get off
Yeah.
the narrow, please bring me back. Huh?
Yeah. So you started questioning things.
Yeah, right, okay,
Because
yeah.
to
I was
me,
trying
I'm a
to
little
question.
curious why your business is untouched. Why you're watching
Yes,
other
I mean,
businesses
right,
go
okay,
down, and yeah.
As I said, yes. Okay, in ways. All right. What I, when I used to travel, what I used to tell people, I said, look, obviously we've got this socialist government and pretty totalitarian, but I am lucky. I can pick up the phone and I can speak to a minister. I suppose I knew the only minister I never met in Albert René's government was James Michel. I met him afterwards, in fact, when he was president. But I knew most of the ministers, either on first name terms or otherwise. I mean, okay, vodka was substantial. We certainly, we did a good job. We were the biggest furniture manufacturer. Everyone knows we built the best furniture. You paid for it, but you got the best. Vodka never dealt in cheap. Vodka dealt in quality. This is what we built the name on. If you want to buy cheap, you go somewhere else. You buy vodka, you buy quality. And we're a big enough and strong enough company financially to back. So if your product goes wrong, you can sue us or whatever. You have substance. You have guarantees. And this is how we built it up. Quality. Okay. And our furniture was, in fact, most of the furniture in State House was done by us for Albert René. I mean, conference tables, and he loved our work. He loved our work because we were good. We did the best. We were the best. Okay. In my day, no one made better furniture than Vodka. I mean, it started off all the hotels, Reef, Bovalo, you name it, Mahe Beach. All these had been done. Okay, this was before my time.
But the question we keep asking is why...
Sorry?
The question that we've been asking is why is it vodka was not touched
Well,
when Mukesh was...
I don't know. It was, okay, well, one second, because we worked well, and yes, okay, we were responsible. We tried, for example, we would sponsor, right? We were involved with boxing, and other sports. Okay, I was a windsurfer. Okay, not that we sponsored my windsurfing, but we worked well. We worked well, and I don't know. Albert just thought, okay, whatever.
Was he a shareholder?
No, not at all. When I joined the company, as I said, Harry Atkinson, Adonis or whatever, I mean, he has, there's company things, no? Harry Atkinson had 60%, Basil Soundy at 40. Right. Now, we can start getting back, okay? I got my first set of shares, I don't even remember, it was maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years in. I got 1.5%. I remember getting my loan from Barclays, even though I was extremely well paid, but I used to like spending. I'm always one of these people who says, work hard and play hard. If you work hard, you'll have the money, so when your time comes for you to play, you're going to have money to play. I don't like skimping. Either I do it properly or I don't do it at all. That's me. That's 100%. No half measures. There's no black and white with me. And so, I don't know, it's maybe a question you could ask Basil, and why were we not targeted? And also, he was active. Okay, Basil was chairman of the Federation of Employers. And so, one of the, he had a little seat on this and the Employment Council, and he wasn't, and okay, he kept out of things. Basil wasn't a politician, okay? I became the politician, not Basil. Okay? And, and so, so we're getting back, we said, okay, so I don't know why it was, you'd have to ask Basil as well, obviously Albert René is dead. But and as I said, and I got sick and tired, man. I said, and I was almost embarrassed, and I think the thing, it summed up exactly. I remember one day, Paul Jean, I don't know, he may have been in prison because his company continued to work while he was in prison. They detained illegally. And those days, Mukesh and Glennie and all these chaps were in charge of all the import permits. You competed against people who would issue you your import permit. You would submit them your documents It's like you go to your competitor and you show them, this is going to be my bid, you know. I mean, guys, you can't believe what business was like in those days. And anyway, okay, we hear that P&J Hardware, or Basil tells me, P&J Hardware have been refused a permit for plywood. Bodco were big plywood importers at the time. And I said, Basil, are you happy about that? He looks at me. And I said, Basil, a guy in the private sector who's possibly in prison or whatever, or if he wasn't in prison, having an extremely difficult time with the government, you're now happy that he's been denied a permit to import timber, to import plywood? And Basil looked at me and said, Remo, what company do you work for? And I suppose. And I said, why, God, you know, people prostitute themselves for money and this and that. And obviously, I like money, sure I do, but my God, I'm not going to sell my soul for it. And see good business people being struck down so that I can make more money. I am sorry. I have got a conscience. And the money I make and have must have been earned honestly from hard work, not from stealing or getting political advantage on other people. Yeah, but I suppose he was true. It's also true, yeah, in business. I mean, hey, I work for Bodco, not for P&J. Yeah, I'm a bit of a weird guy. Yeah, business my bit, and then I suppose, all right, now let's, and so, anyway, can we just finish here and say, all right, okay? I wanted to establish, first of all, what I should have had, all things being equal. All things being equal, today I would have owned at least 60% of the Bodco group. And the Bodco group that I would have run with my team, with Basil, and it would have been worth a damn sight more than it is today. And that was what was denied to me, gentlemen. And so how did that happen? Yeah, Mukesh, my dear friend Mukesh Vallabhji. And ably assisted by Glennie Savvy. They used to terrorize the business sector like you just don't know. SMB, the import permits, this. And when I see them walking around with their billions, the arrogance, this is what gave me the courage to come back and remind the people what the business community have suffered, me included. But not just the business community, you know, their actions have affected every single Seychelles. Every single Seychelles has lost as a result of this regime. The money, the land, the wealth. You know, pro rata, we've suffered as bad as East Germany under the communist regime. Or per capita. Per capita. As you, ladies and gentlemen, have heard, my God. So, where did I meet Mukesh? This was my early years, my second stint back at Bodco. SMB's been formed, Seychelles Marketing Board. Albert is president of the marketing board. Mukesh is in charge of trading. And the trading side is obviously a lot of it building materials. Our main competitor, okay? As I said to you, as we all know, Mukesh, at the height of his power, was effectively the vice president of our country. And I don't mind if I repeat myself, but I'm now going to go a little bit. As you all know, Mukesh carried a chip on his shoulder. And something that I said to him in jest, he took the wrong fashion. Let me tell you what happened. In the good old days, Bodco used to have a very nice boat, at the time a power boat called Lady Joy. I was coming back from fishing. I think I was entertaining some overseas person who was visiting Bodco and stuff. Mukesh was in charge of SMB trading. It was Jacqueline Ablash in charge of fish. Philibert was in charge of export, etc. Kieran Waro was in charge of food processing, etc., etc. All earning about 6,000 or 7,000 rupees a month at the time. Obviously, knowing Mukesh's father is a man who's worked very hard and has, sure, naturally, after working hard, you have money. Anyway, Mukesh was driving a very fancy boat. And as we were crossing, I shouted him, I said, "Hey Mukesh, where did you get that money to buy that lovely boat?" Obviously, his father could have afforded to buy him 10 of those boats. But he took it very badly. I suppose he took it as though I was saying, "Have you been stealing money from SMB?" It was too early. It was in the early stages. They hadn't started setting it up for the mass looting that took place. And I remember as well, okay, so anyway, he didn't say anything to me. Mukesh didn't phone me or anything. But I heard about it through Glennie. Glennie, yeah, I dealt with them, obviously. Everyone bought from Bodco. In my day, if you were doing any construction project, you had at some stage to come to Bodco to buy things. We had everything. The only thing we didn't do was sand and cement, steel, furniture, white goods, fridges, freezers, air conditioners, you name it. You could build your house from everything that Bodco did. All you had to do was buy the sand, the cement, and the blocks from UCPS. All the rest you could buy at Bodco. And hold it, I'm getting a bit sidetracked. Bring me back.
So you...
Yeah, the road, right, okay. So, right, okay. So now, right. But no, this, okay. So obviously, I'd had dealings with Glennie Savvy, okay, and now Glennie and Mukesh were getting together and with the SMB, the import permits and all that. And I think it was a time I was managing La Rue Glace. I mean, okay. Okay. When I say Bodco, okay, the actual name, it was, we had structured Bodco with different companies and stuff. Consulman, Consultancy and Management Services. It's a long story. I'm not going to go into that. But basically, Consulman managed all the companies in the group. All right? And Basil and I were employed by a company called Consulman. Anyway, one day the bank phoned us up and they say, "You guys do consultancy and management?" And Basil says, "Yes." And they said, "Right, we want you to go in and manage La Rue Glace for us." La Rue Glace, belonging to Walter La Rue. What had happened, okay, if you have an overdraft, you know, you sign clauses and the bank at any time appoint someone to come in. If they're not happy with the way you're performing, they can bring in someone to manage your company. And exactly, Barclays at the time had overextended their loans to La Rue Glace or whatever. And we had a sort of relationship with La Rue Glace as well. And they said, "We're appointing you to go in and tell us whether this company should be closed or to be sold off. Or closed or you can rescue it." And Basil, knowing how much I loved a challenge, and yes, my God, I could work, and work hours have had to be, said to me, "Right, Remo, this is a challenge for you. You're now going to go in. Not only are you going to keep on running the Bodco group, but you're going to go and see if your good friend Walter, his company, can be saved. And for quite some time, I don't know, 5, 6 months, 7 months, I mean, guys, you know, sometimes you try and put things at the back of your mind and forget them, and you've got to then bring them back from the far recesses of the memory. But I can remember I'd go to Bodco at 4 o'clock in the morning, start work till about 7, then go down to La Rue Glass. In those days they were at Plant La Rue, help him sort out his mess, and then at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, get back to Bodco, work till 8 o'clock at night. And I did that for a long time, sometimes Saturdays and Sundays as well. Yes, I'm a workaholic. I love working. I love working. I mean, as I said, it's a weakness. It's also a strength. It's a strength short term, but it's not too good for long term. But that's my problem. And yes, we were able to save, but in the process, Walter was doing also work. I mean, with Glenn. I mean, he had a relationship with Glennie, and once Glennie was most surprised to find me coming in a meeting as Walter's advisor now. And he could no longer bully Walter. Yeah, you know, he could bully other people, but not Raymond d'Esperville, man. No, Fat Boy didn't scare me at all, I can assure you. Anyway, so we sorted that one out. But in the process, one of these conversations, Glennie says to me, he says, you know, Mukesh was really angry with you for passing that comment, you know, that where did you get the money from to buy the boat? And he's going to tell Albert about it. I just didn't laugh. I said, hey, you know, Albert would know I'm joking anyway. And, you know, I really, guys, it just didn't occur to me. Or maybe I didn't realize how they were each getting involved with each other. You know what I mean? Okay. I don't think the corruption started with the Mukesh. I think it started with Mario Ricci. He was the first guy who started corrupting Albert. And that started off. And then when Mukesh came in, wow, that's when it started. And can you imagine when the president and his cronies are stealing so much? How can they control any other person under them? And my God, the looting and the theft and the acquisition of wealth makes you want to vomit, gentlemen. What people will do for money. We became a nation of prostitutes. A nation of prostitutes, some of us. And I hope some of you sitting on all your ill-gotten gains get serious. And I suppose bit by bit things start changing. You know, bit by bit things start changing. Yeah. I remember writing, I have here a copy of a letter that I wrote to Albert René, 18th of December 1990, and saying, Mr. President, several years ago you were kind enough to grant me an interview. When I came to see you, it was not for any major problem as such, but more to discuss general issues and also the privilege of informal contact with you. I would now ask for the privilege of another personal interview. Concerns SMB's trading unfair practices against this company. More precisely, Mukesh Vallabhji's unfair use of his position against me. Whilst I'm not the saint in this present state of affairs, there are two sides in every dispute, and this I wish to explain fully to you. I've got, you know, okay, I mean, how did it start? Okay, Mukesh, let me tell you sort of things that he did to us. Okay. We had, and Francis Mordaunt, my hotel services division manager, will verify every single word. We had just secured the biggest order of crockery and cutlery in this country, I would say. The whole of the Seychelles hotel group, supply the whole group, and you're talking of Mahe Beach, Beauvalon, Reef Hotel, Côte d'Or, Barbaron, everything. I think the only private hotel at that time was Coral Strand left. Yeah. Okay. Francis negotiated everything with Seychelles hotels at the time. It was, I think, Marie's Jean de Saint-Jean, or Eichler, who was in charge. And he negotiated. Obviously, there was competition. And we got this order for 700,000 rupees. Guys, there was a lot of money in those days. A lot of money. And if, like all imports, you needed a permit. So there's shipping delays. I think the ship got here about a week late. And Mukesh refuses to renew the permit. The nastiness. And I hope he's listening to my words. I really do. I want to tell him what I think of him and his ill-gotten millions. And he will not have one night's respite till he returns everything that he's taken from this country. And the rest of them as well. We will have justice in this country one day. Papu Zame laisse tomber, guys.
Yeah. I do remember when he was here and we asked him about the import permits, he claimed that he wasn't the decision maker. That
Lies.
They all went to Albert Rene and he decided.
Lies. He was so corrupt, he had Mr. Rene by the you-know-whats. Okay? When I've stolen and I've shared with you, you can do nothing to me as I can do nothing to you. And I'm very sure Mukesh Vallabhji, he is bright. I mean, don't get me wrong. Mukesh Vallabhji isn't stupid. He is extremely bright. Got a chip on his shoulder, that's for sure. But that doesn't stop him being one of the most intelligent people I know. Like Albert, he just used his intelligence for the wrong thing. He reduced it. I mean, the world's biggest criminals are some of the most intelligent people in the world, gentlemen. You know, to pull off some of these crimes, you can't be stupid. It's just that you've used your intelligence for bad things and negative things instead of good things. And so him saying that, lies. And I'll say to his face, lies. He had corrupted Albert and vice versa so much, they could control no one. They couldn't control the people under them, or obviously they could kill them, as they did, murder them. They could do that, no problem. But they were as crooked as each other. But I would say Mukesh showed him the way. You know, maybe something like, here's a little million. You know, you can, and before you know it, give him more, and before you know it, woof, he's up to there and he's got him. And vice versa. Saying he was following instructions. Lies. He did it with pleasure. His chip on his shoulder. He was going to. Do you people remember the arrogance of his speeches on TV? When with this Koi TV thing, saying where was the private sector? The private sector was too scared to do anything. Each time we tried to do something, the government would take it from us. You didn't. Guys, if you came up with anything, you tried to keep it as close to your heart as possible. Anything that good that came out of the private sector was stolen by this government. where's the private sector? Ha! He can say things like that, backed by the Seychelles government. That's unlimited credit. He could not, Mukesh Vallabhji could never have beaten me in trading. In fair trading, I would have rubbed his horrible little face in the dust. And he knows it. Despite I don't have his degrees, but God gave me a brain. I presume I must have some Jewish blood in me somewhere far back, because I love buying and selling. And I love working, and I love win-win. I like my customers to win as I like to win. Mukesh was not that on me. Not that. All he had was the corrupt power of a president behind him. And he forced us, getting back to this order for the crockery and cutlery. He forced us to sell it to SMB, or maybe they cleared it and they then overload your invoices. Gentlemen, with the price control, you could not survive on the margins that you were allowed. It was not possible. The system made the whole business community crooks. Everyone. You could not survive on a markup of 30%. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. And you are forced to tell your supplier overseas, add on 10%. And okay, yeah, sure. I did it for vodka. Everyone had to do it. But that was our money. Mukesh did it with government money and the people's money. In his position as a public servant, he could not do it. SMB did not belong to him. It was supposed to belong to the people of this country. And all he used it as for, all this project was to load and load. Guys, do you know how much 5% on all the sugar, all the milk, all the meat is? You know how much wealth you can get on that in 20 years? Seychelles eat a lot of rice, guys. We eat a lot of rice. SMB controlled everything. Everything. So it didn't matter if they were made any money. I mean, Koi TV, the more he could buy, the more he would make. Even though it was a total. Where is it today? The millions that were spent. Indian Ocean nurseries. Where is it today? Spirit of Corche. Where is it today? Just the waste and arrogance. Power. So when you control the power, you can make the money. That was them. And the business community guys, man. We became prostitutes. The whole country became prostitutes. Yeah, I say, we suffered as bad as East Germany and these places. Yeah, guys, pro rata or per capita, we did. We did. Anyway, so getting back, obviously, I tried to write to Albert, tell him, okay, look, let's. And there's all, detailing all the, thing they did with timber. Bodco and Builders or SMB were the biggest timber importers. He didn't have price control. He could do what he wanted. Price control did not apply to SMB in our day. They could charge whatever they wanted, make whatever profit they wanted. And so, sure, he starts a price war on the timber. We can engage a price war short term. Vodka was sound, but long term we can't. He was backed by the millions of the state. He could do that. Yeah, anyway, I mean, that was, okay, the rattan cane, okay, where we'd started manufacturing. And then, no, he wants to destroy that, so he starts importing rattan cane furniture to compete against us, and getting it duty free, and yeah. Yeah, I have one of these articles. I mean, okay, that I wrote to Albert. This was a letter dated the 23rd of January 1991, and detailing all the things that Mukesh was doing against us. And yeah, okay. And I put it under the thing, the effect on me personally. The recent incident concerning the hotel where occurred whilst I was away on business. My purchasing manager, Colin Adlin, dealt with Mukesh, and during the course of his discussions asked him if there could be cooperation in the future, i.e. that all this harassment stop, to which Mukesh replied, when Raymond d'Espéville resigns. Now, the other thing, Gerard Lafortune, ex-land transport, will remember this. There used to be the tenders for the bitumen for the roads. And obviously, with vodka, you can imagine, we used to trade with companies around the world. We had contacts. We could buy you anything. Anything you wanted, you could get from vodka. Either we'd stock it or we'd bring it in for you. And we used to tender for the bitumen. But obviously, the margins were very small, 2.5%, 3%. But if you get the money up front on the amounts, sure, you make profit. Mukesh couldn't stand it that vodka kept beating him on these tenders. And he just got the law changed overnight. Overnight. A regulation comes out as of now, only SMB can tender for the bitumen. Gerard Lafortune will remember that, obviously, as will Basil, as will Mukesh if he's... Yeah, Mukesh. I'm sure if you could look through Bodco's correspondence, we'd find that letter. I don't think it'll be around. Obviously, you're talking now. Long time ago. And correspondence would have been destroyed. Oh, Mukesh. I've even got a copy of a letter there that I tried to write to Mukesh himself, saying how... This is January '87. Okay, so it was just after this boat incident, I think, or no, was it? Yeah, I was going to go and see him. Dear Mukesh, it reads like this, man alive. I was civil, considering what a monster he was. And it reads, I am eating an extremely large piece of humble pie and would like to apologize for missing today's appointment. Mitigation has been one of those days. As soon as I realized, I did try and phone at about 1:45 and your line was busy. The object of the meeting was to clear certain misunderstandings. In fact, I had hoped to see you at our New Year's Eve party when it was my intention to speak to you then. Anyway, I would still like to come and see you in person. When your secretary phoned back, she did say you were taken up for the rest of the afternoon and hope you'll be able to meet at convenience next week. In fact, this was about... Okay, when I said, where did you get? A few months ago, I'd seen Mukesh driving his new boat, at which time I said, Mukesh, how can you afford a boat like this on your 6,000, exactly, 6,000 rupees a month? At the time, I'm sure his father was quite capable of giving him such a present. Though Mukesh took it the wrong way, and for that reason, I decided to go and see him to explain. This is obviously some notes. I mean, hey guys, I'm just looking at all these things here.
I mean, it would be good for us to have copies of those letters. Yeah.
And, but anyway, so as I said, okay, but, yeah. And so, obviously, okay, President didn't see me. I wrote again, and finally, I said to Basil, Basil, look. Basil was by now an honorary consul of a couple of countries, and he had, okay, he still had a reasonable relationship with as I said, as he was on this employment board, and as an honorary consul, he had access. I said, look, you've got to go, because things aren't going to get any better. This war against us, Mukesh is going to do everything possible to bring us down. And sure enough, Basil finally got his appointment. I'm sure that must have been the worst day of Basil Soundley's life. Obviously, I don't know what happened and what was said in that appointment. I wasn't there. But what I can tell you, Basil came back and he said, obviously, okay, there was people around, and he said, come and see me. Came and he said, close the door. And he just burst out crying. And his words were, the bastards have cut off my right hand, my right arm. It's the first and only time I've ever seen Basil Soundley cry. Yeah. The AT was going to start breaking up. Now, can I have something to drink, please? Anyway. And he said to me, he said, Raymond, Albez literally told me, unless you resign, we're going to go under. The pressure will not stop. Eventually, if you don't get permits, don't get this. I mean, and already the country was beginning to suffer with us, with the, no. Had it got bad? No, I'm wrong. We hadn't started suffering from foreign currency shortages yet, but it was, the situation wasn't that healthy as I recall. And so I suppose in ways I knew it was coming. But now it was there in black and white, okay. In ways I was sure, I mean, I had, okay. And Basil would tell me sometimes, say, Raymond, you're beginning get a bit vociferous and saying, hey, why people's land being taken, why this, why that, and people had started a little bit. I mean, still looking behind to see who was watching you when you said the words. But people had started just a little bit talking. But anyway, okay, initially we thought it wouldn't be for long. And it was a question of my resigning, marking time for a while somewhere and waiting for the heat to come off, and eventually I'd come back. That was the idea. So I kept my shares, okay, I still had, okay, getting back, as I told you, I purchased my first lot of 1.5%. I was due to buy my next 3.5, which would have brought me to 5. And we started delaying it when we noticed that things were going wrong. You know what I mean? With all this pressure coming up against the group and against me in particular. And so it never happened. But as I said, I would have, okay. So we tried to sort of make it look as though I was resigning. In fact, some of you, I don't know if you ever read the Indian Ocean newsletter of the old days, and I can remember being very prominently featured, the Bodco story. My whole story was told there. And I can remember as well that, and as I said, right, poor Basil, he was scared. I mean, the business community were scared. They lived in total fear. And when this article, I think, came out of Remo, in the Indian Ocean newsletter, the Bodko Affair it was called, I think, someone, maybe the President's Office of Health, said, hey, we don't like being incorrectly accused. Remo d'Esperville resigned. Would you please go? And I think Basil did an article in the Seychelles Nation reiterating that I had resigned. Resigned. Yeah, guys, obviously, okay. I wasn't going to tell Basil, no, I'm not resigning. You have to fire me. I mean, guys, we'd been together. He was my big brother. And even though, as I said, I cursed him and stuff. But, big brothers fight and little brothers. But it didn't detract from this bond that we had, this way of working together and to make things good and move things forward. And, yeah, I would eventually come back and hopefully then buy up to my 60%. But then again, Basil would have stayed. Like, I remember the arrangement. Even though I would get 60%, he would remain managing director as out of a sign of respect. Because yes, he was the man who opened the door for me the first time. And for that, I'll be eternally grateful. If I became a success in business in this country, I owe my first job to Basil Soundy. He opened the door for me, he recognized my capabilities, and he allowed me to flourish. The fact that our relationship has taken different turns and this and that doesn't matter. Basil was my brother, my big brother. But another thing as well, I remember again, right, and I'll be coming back for this later on, but there's also, in the Party Sexual Underground days when Albert sent his 3 thugs to try and kill me. One of the things I did after that was to get Bodko Construction Division to start fixing up my premises and fixing up a wall and putting broken bottles around. They're doing a proper security because my house at the time that I had in Belom was one of these very open plan, like in the old days when, there weren't any robbers. You could leave your house open and stuff like that. And I get home one day and I see construction workers stopped. And I think, that's funny. And so I go back and I say, Basil. And poor Basil, even though I had by that stage officially left the company, was so shit scared that if he was seen, or his workers were seen providing security around my house, he would be targeted again. He was that scared. And anyone else in his position would have been that scared. You have to have lived, gentlemen, during that time to know what it was like. But me, obviously, I didn't. By that stage, I was so fired up with the underground movement, obviously. How can you be scared? Remo the hero. How can you be scared? Sure, he was scared. But in a fit of anger, I suppose I told him, you've got a yellow streak and I don't want to be in business with people like you. And I want to sell my shares in Bodko, ou faire moi honte. It was harsh, very harsh, very harsh, very harsh. And I know I must have hurt him when I said that, but guys, that's me, My big mouth has caused me a bit of problems, but I suppose I've always called a spade, gentlemen. Remo d'Esperville will sooner punch you in the face than stick a knife in your back. I don't put knives in people's backs. If I have a problem with you, I'll either try and sort it out man to man. And if I'm stupid, I'll take a swing. Thank God I don't swing as much as I used to anymore. These days, I've taught myself to cry instead when I'm really angry. Far better to cry than to start swinging at people. Anyway, so yeah, I was now without a job. Okay, the party Seychelles aside, yes. Very proud to say I joined up with Rofos Ryan Wavell. It was Rofos my first, but I do remember that speech, that motivational speech from that young Anglican priest. My God, it was like manna from heaven. It was like manna from heaven. And sure, I joined up and was underground with them. As I said, okay, we're going to speak about that the next time I come back. But yeah, I had to save up a bit of money. Sure, I lived very well, but I'd saved up a bit. I had a little piece of land that I'd inherited from my mother at Ossopin, part of the de Saint-Jean estate, La Plaine Saint-André. I subsequently had to sell that to live. Because for 1.5 years I didn't work. I helped get Party Seychelles going, first underground, and then when the buffoon Jimmy Mancam came back and multi-party democracy and all of that was reestablished, it was time for me to get back to work. And guys, it was Albert René in charge. Not easy for him to get a job in the Seychelles, I can assure you. Not very easy. And, I was on the verge of leaving, saying, all right, okay, democracy's back, but he's still in charge. And Jimmy Mancam didn't help much to change the situation. And I contemplated leaving my country. And my cousin, Kathy Mason, well, what should I say, married to my cousin. Mickey Mason and I are first cousins. Mickey's mother was a Despeville. She was my father's older sister. And if some of you ever look at Mickey Mason's passport, you'll see that his surname is Michael or Raymond Michael Despeville Mason. Okay, his mom kept the fancy surname. Anyway, I was very close to them. Mickey was like a big brother. Kathy was my closest business friend to start off with. When I ran the Bodco group, I'd be in her office often discussing mutual management problems, getting her idea, brainstorm with her, as she would with me. I knew more about, the times I think I knew more about Mason's travel than Mickey did. Well, aspects of Mason's travel than Mickey did. We had that relationship. Anyway, and she said to me, let's buy Indian Ocean Lodge. It's going for cheap. And you take a third, I'll take a third, and a big German tour operator will take a third. But at the time, again, this was all illegal. You had to do things. Hotels or destination management companies, DMCs, weren't allowed to buy hotels. But with all the grief and problems that Mason's travel had also, and I hope one day Kathy and Mickey will tell us what they went through. Anyway. And Kathy, originally she said to me, Remo, why don't you come and work with me? And I said, Kathy, you must be joking. I said, hell, with all the problems that you and Mickey have had, and now me being forced to resign from Bodco, you want to give me a job? Are you mad? Are you mad? You're already being terrorized by Albert René and his thugs, and you want to offer me, public enemy number one, a job? And I said, Kathy, the only way anyone can stand up to this government, obviously not by force, because, hey, I've fought in wars I don't want anymore. I know what wars are, gentlemen. And I said, I said, the only way that we can do this is for some of us to go out on the street, and for you in the business community who still make a little bit of money, yeah, you help us. You help me with my living expenses. Okay, if I'm going to go out wearing my Party Seychelles t-shirts and things like that, hey, I've got to live. And not only that, prior to the, okay, when these people tried to kill me, thereafter I had to have when I say a bodyguard, I had to have a witness with me. You know, I said, okay, it's easier to kill one person than it is two. And after that attack on me that night, I had to have someone with me 24 hours. 24 hours. All the young kids, my team from Belom organized a rota so that every night someone slept with me in my home. Like, I wasn't married. Like, I was still a bachelor. And would generally during the day come with me in my car, so that if anything happened to me, okay, instead of killing one, they've now got to kill two if it gets to that stage. And this costs. I mean, someone's living with you. You've got to feed them. You've got to give them a beer. Others come. Obviously, as the activity goes, people are going to come around. You know, my house was a hotbed of Party Seychelles underground activity, as everyone knew. Even though we tried to do it underground, but you know, you can't keep a secret in the Seychelles. Well, not for very long anyway. And so, but as I said, anyway, that side, we're not going to talk about the Party Seychelles side today. But yeah, okay, it was very difficult for me to get a job. And Kathy, as I said, so Kathy says to me, Raymond, okay, let's try and buy Indian Ocean Lodge. And we did it. All right. Things didn't work out. It was maybe the worst decision I ever took in my life. It is, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I lost my best friend. I lost Kathy Mason. Wow, it's one of the biggest regrets of my life. After my sister, Kathy Mason was the most important woman in my life. My God, I worshipped that woman, maybe too much. We were good friends. But she's a hard person. I mean, to have survived what she has survived, guys, and it didn't end well. In fact, I often used to say, you know, no, Kathy Mason did no wrong to me. I suppose, you know, I should have trusted her. Circumstances, wives. You can't go through life regretting spilled milk. It happened. And I said some horrible things about her, and I wish to retract these now in public. Whatever you may have heard me say against Kathy Mason, please, it was wrong. It was wrong. And even though I said that didn't help me financially either, I would have never got into business with Kathy Mason if I hadn't been forced to leave Bodco. That was where the problem started. Okay? And everything else, guys, you know, I suppose with the life that I've had, I have issues. Sure I do. Sure I do. Sure I have issues. I've had a lot of trauma in my life. More than my fair share, my God. The war in Rhodesia, the suicide of my older brother Philip, Bodco. Yeah. I've had quite a lot of issues to deal with. Anyway, so after the very unfortunate time with Indian Ocean and Kathy and Mickey and stuff and marine equipment, obviously Albert was still in charge and things weren't easier. Eventually, I was then getting divorced and very bad period of my life. Eventually, I left. 2005, boutique hotel, 300 hectares of rainforest. I developed into a nature park for her. But I must say, about the best thing, despite I made no money, my God, I lived like a... I went to Madagascar with nothing and I came back with nothing. But what I did get, guys, and I suppose so, you know, what is money worth? I can say that I helped Sir David Attenborough for 2 weeks to film a part of his British BBC series called Life in Cold Blood. Yeah. And yes, I have a signed book by the man himself, Sir David Attenborough, saying, "Thank you, Raymond. My hero." Wow. I didn't tell you about parts of growing up in Rhodesia. I'm what you call your proverbial bushman. Birds and snakes is what I love the most. But when you love birds and snakes, you get to know everything else. So yeah, I don't know. Would I prefer to have been a millionaire owning 60% than or rather than say, I looked after Sir David Attenborough for 2 weeks? I don't know. I suppose I'd go for the Sir David Attenborough for 2 weeks than money. Anyway, that was about the only good thing that happened when I was in Madagascar for me. Obviously, I'd kept contact with people over the years. While I was there, Basil, I'd heard about the economic reforms in 2008, and now I think James Michel was in power. I think Albert resigned while I was gone. I've forgotten, guys, you know. Anyway, I came back in 2011.
It was in 2004 that he...
No, I left in 2005.
Oh.
Okay, okay, you know, we didn't have Forex. You couldn't get back into business unless you were in with them, which I was not. I was still public enemy. I mean, VJ will tell you, I did odd jobs. I worked at the yacht club once. Then with my trauma issues, I stressed out. Guys will remember Crazy Ray. Yeah, I did. And then I worked for Vijay Patel for a while when he was doing, what's that thing on Surf Island? Retainer. I was paid. I didn't work full time. But I can remember asking, you know, Vijay, hinting to him, you know, what about trying to work with you? And he said, Raymond, you are a political liability, man. I couldn't employ you. Not possible. Already, he was doing me a big favor by, you know, my doing this retainer thing, because it wasn't for VJ Construction as such. It was another company, and I'd got it through Suketu Patel. Suketu had mentioned it to me that, you know, look, why don't you, VJ's looking for someone and, you know, help him out and stuff. And I did odd things, but then finally I said, look, nothing's going to happen for me in the Seychelles. My sister needed help in Madagascar, and I went off to live there. Had a great time. Well, the best part of that was being able to say, I have a signed copy of a book by Sir David Attenborough. And that is a very prized privilege, possession of mine, shall I say. Anyway, coming back, I started at the age of 58, gentlemen, 58. Yeah, I had the courage to start again, yeah. And I started my little company called RDS Trading, at 58, and I'm still working like a slave at 68, because with all this time that I wasn't able to work here, I wasn't able to build up a pension. Okay, I get the absolute minimum. What is it, 5,700? I mean, guys, give me a break. Who can live on 5,700? When one has been used to, it's not a gaza, but when you've been used to earning 20 and 30 and 40 and 50,000 rupees a month, how can you suddenly be expected to earn, you know what I mean? Or the adjustment that you require is so vast. Okay. And as I said, I have worked very hard in my country. And it's just not fair. It's not fair. And I never stole anything, man. So let me just get back to the and gets back to, I suppose, when I say, why did I decide to come back? Yes, gentlemen, someone has to compensate me. Someone has to compensate. I was denied at the prime of my business career the right to work and to prosper in my country. As I said, I'm one of these theorists. Good business people pay their taxes, pay their workers fair wages, pay their shareholders good dividends. I'm an idealist. But there's nothing wrong for going for the ideals, because then at least you get somewhere close. No, always aim for the best. But a lot of other people need a lot of money as well. Wow. Oof. When I think of the things that have been done, wow. But yes, out there is a lot of people who've got very rich, who've stolen. I mean, just taking Albert René. We all remember the Ronsadzis. Remember this beautiful piece of land that he bought for 60,000 rupees? 60,000 rupees for a piece of land like that, I'm sorry, is theft. Is outright theft. And when people make laws that are vague, that allows them to steal, I'm sorry, there is something wrong with the system.
Who did he buy it from? The government?
I don't know. It came from Troya, no? Ça Ronsadzis. Côté Gaïs à la terre. Petit Barbaro, part of the Barbaro estate. It was state land, okay.
I think it was in that election when there was a whole bunch of candidates, including Ogilvy Bailey.
Whatever. Yeah, okay, yeah, but that was, okay, when it was the time of the multi-party democracy, when everyone, okay, he had bought, okay, minimum, okay, this piece of land at the time, minimum, what, 700, 800,000 rupees. Minimum market value.
It took 10 acres
It was government land.
Petit Baba, where Sarah, his wife, now lives with the children.
Aspolit, it's called.
Whatever. 60,000 rupees, gentlemen, I'm sorry. You cannot tell me, and that is just, that is not even that, what this man and his people around him have stolen. When you set that example, what do you expect the people under you to do? When you've murdered and got people to do dirty jobs for you? And how do you control those people when they start stealing? You can't control them. And that is why people like Claude amassed fortunes, Payet and all these other people, Brigadier Powell, all these, everyone went crazy. Everyone went crazy.
I mean, I think if that be true, it'd be good if those people, in the interest of reconciliation and laying a new foundation, would give back
Oh, I
what
hope
they
so.
took.
I hope
right?
so. And I hope my testimony is going to go in a part way of people start to look at themselves. Look at yourselves in the mirror, gentlemen. I'm saying that to those out there. Look at yourself in the mirror. Are you proud of all the wealth that you have now? Can you tell me you worked for it? You paid a fair price for it? A lot of them did not.
That's what they tell us, right? Pretty much. I mean, when we've questioned people, they
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I mean, we just take, I mean, this farm that supposedly Mr. Rene has in Australia. Huh? The millions that he siphoned through exile army camp. I know at the time they were buying a lot from Bodco. And I will tell you, the first house Sarah Rene got in the corner there in Bello was built with money from exile army camp. And if Bodco still had still had all their records, I could prove it. Where Claude would come buy things, and all that stuff went into Sarah Rene's house. How much was siphoned off by all these army people? Payet, Marengo, millions, never been audited. Can you imagine if we were able to audit the exile army account, how many billions went through there? And how many of these different people got things from it? That's just Rene. Huh.
maybe the Anti-Corruption Commission
Huh.
can look.
Sister, I'm hoping. Mrs. Chairman,
I mean, they have
know-
the legislation in place, right? You have unjust and explain your wealth, unexplained wealth legislation.
The Savvy brothers, the deals on the islands. Glennie, how many deals did you do on all the islands? How many backhanders did you take? I know you inherited wealth from your father, Glennie, but my God, you also acquired a lot. Little Francis, renting islands for 1 rupee. Felicite, how many billions did you make selling your shares to the guys from Tata? David Savvy, what happened to the money from the Malo Arms? You dirtied our reputation selling them to the Rwandans for money. And we want to know where it all went. What about the money that Albert Rene got for the mercenaries? Freeing the mercenaries, dealing with an apartheid, the racist apartheid government? How many billions did he get for that? And that was why Nelson Mandela snubbed him. Do you guys remember? That was, wow. I said, Nelson Mandela, you are one of the finest. Oof, what a man. Nelson Mandela was transiting through here one night. He refused to see Albert Rene. You know why? Because he knew he had been given money by the apartheid regime for the mercenaries. And rightly so, he let Mr. President Albert Rene what he thought of him. Sent his messenger down the steps of the plane to tell him, sorry. The President Mandela wishes to sleep. Gentlemen, that is not Mandela wanting to sleep. That was Mandela telling him, I do not want to associate with criminals like you. It was a deliberate snub. And I'm so proud that he did it to that criminal Albert Rene. So, Sunny Khan. We all know Sunny Khan. Sunny Khan looked after Rene with Sarah Rene when she was in Malaysia, before he married her. I want to know, how did Sonny Khan get hold of CCL? And what price did he pay for it? The land at Island Motors, how did he get that? And how did he pay for it? Mr. Ramados, from pauper to billionaire. From a simple little doctor, nothing. Barely had shoes when he came to this country. Today a billionaire. Who was he fronting? Whose dirty money was he using to build up wealth? And for who? Dollar.
He's the army doctor, right?
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah, he was the army doctor. I think he used to be there when they were torturing the guys. You know what I mean? When you torture people, you need a doctor there to make sure he doesn't die.
Yeah.
Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if this is how Ramados got in. Okay, and then obviously we all know Ramados. He likes the pomp and the this, and they used him as a front man for the casinos and everything else that he owns. If I was President Ramkalawan, I would take away Mr. Ramados's citizenship, but I don't know the rules.
Peshawar, where's he from?
He has got citizenship. Can you believe it?
Naturalized, is he?
It makes me ashamed to know that this little man, this millionaire who's stolen and helped them steal, carries the nationality of my country. And I'd very much like for us to find a way of all these criminal people who got nationality to have it reversed. They do not bring honor to our country, they bring dishonor.
You can, I mean, the UK do that all the time, right? They strip off people's citizenship and ship them off if they do something offend against the laws.
I know immigration are doing exercises and stuff, and I look forward to the day when we can get rid of all this filth and the dregs of humanity who've been given our passports because they paid. Guys like this Krajcar and all these criminals that we have, that the regime has fostered good relationships with.
And join the reconciliation effort.
You hear people with all these vaguely worded laws, which allow people, when we've been hearing, I speak to my good friend Pat Labash and saying, Remo, we can't do that. That's how the law was. I'm saying, but if the law was done by an illegal government anyway, and you can't make things lax that allows you to steal. I mean, don't people have a moral conscience? The laws are one thing, gentlemen, but what about morals? And every man is meant to know right and wrong. And a lot of the things that happen in this country are goddamn wrong, and we know it. And don't give me the excuse, it was within the law. But if the law was incorrect in the first place, because it was done that way to allow people to steal, there must be a legal way to reverse it and for people of this country to see justice again. And my last words were to my very good friend Wabel Ramkalawan, who will be today, we can say, we have finally got a fine president. A guy whose hands are clean, no blood, no money. I say, Mr. President, please, ask our friends in England, in America, in Australia, in Israel, wherever. Help us find the best forensic auditors this world has. The best. You all know these guys work on percentages. Yeah. And when you think of the billions that we have out there, wow, paying someone just 10%, if you don't have it, if you don't have those billions, all you have to pay is 10% to someone to recover 90% of it. And our country needs the money. We need it, the people. I mean, not just the claimants like me and the rest. Our country needs that money back. We've just been through this COVID crisis. There are people out there who do these jobs. And I mean, we've seen it with all these African dictators. These guys are tracking down all these billions and you know, Sani Abacha from the Nigeria and all that. These guys are there. Okay, I mean, hey, you know what I mean? If I had the time, I'm not, okay, I'm right. But I know they exist. And there's some people who are really good at it, digging around. I mean, we had this little, I mean, just if you remember the last assembly with little Florie Larue. Okay, she's not, but she started doing things, started digging, and she exposed a lot of these land deals. And there's a lot more. There's stacks more land deals. I mean, I remember there was the land of the tea estates. Mukesh got pieces, or supposedly got pieces there. I mean, all these land deals on these islands over the years. And yes, and I hope, Mr. President, you will do that. Because yes, as you know, we've spoken. I mean, you've mentioned, yes, your government, you've done some amazing things since coming to power. My God, I am so proud when I see you guys on the TV and the way you're handling meetings and the country's moving forward. And wow, chapeau, chapeau, gentlemen. But the one thing we have failed so far is on the corruption side, where all these people are still walking around with the millions in their pockets, man. Almost arrogance, boasting. Makes me sick. And it makes a lot of other people sick. Right, others benefited, but you know, it's those who stole, the big ones. Mukesh, the Savvy brothers, Sunny Khan, Ramadas, Dolo, Leopold Payet in the army. How many houses did he acquire? Stacks. Huh. And all these idiots in the National Assembly making as though nothing happened. Gentlemen, stop trying to justify the unjustifiable. It's as bad as Germans trying to justify the Nazis. And thank God the Germans would never try and do that. But it's very sad to see some Seychelles still trying to do it. And yes, you know, if nothing is done, yes, I've had the privilege of knowing some pretty famous people in my life. David Attenborough was one of them. The other was a guy called Mordechai Gur, Mota Gur, to be exact. And some in the old regime in Albert's time think I may even be a Mossad agent. But gentlemen, okay, for any of you who know, to be in the Mossad, you have to be Jewish, and that I am certainly not. I was like the majority of us Seychelles baptized a Catholic, like I'm a Christian. And you can't be in the Mossad if you're a Christian. You have to be Jewish. But yes, Mordechai Gur. Who was he? One of the most decorated generals since the Second World War. Masterminded the Entebbe raid. You remember the Entebbe raid? You remember the time when I think the Americans had just given the Egyptians the latest anti-aircraft thing. And as you know, when the Americans want to do a dirty job in the Middle East, who do they get to do their dirty jobs? The finest little army and fighters in the world go and do the dirty work of the Americans, do they not? And yes, and if you know your history, this Israeli team, masterminded by General Mordechai Gur, crossed the Suez, killed all the Egyptian soldiers, dismantled the equipment, got it back over to the Suez, on the other side, into Israel or Sinai, as they then controlled, and gave it to the Americans and says, there you go. And this was Mordechai Gur. He was also very, very high up in the Mossad. And he was a personal friend of mine. I met him here in the Seychelles. That's another story. But yes, over the years, because people think they know my background, they know bits of it, but they don't know the lot. And I think Mr. Albert René got quite a shock when he went to visit Israel. This is when multi-party democracy was restored. And he must have got the shock of his life when he met now Deputy Defense Minister Mordechai Gur saying, how's my friend Raymond d'Espeville in the Seychelles? Albert René must have fallen off his bloody chair. Yeah, that's why I was able to chase away his 3 thugs who tried to kill me that night, which I shall come back to later on. But anyway, no, I'm not Mossad. I'm a great admirer of Israel. And yes, I know if I want, I can get contact with the Simon Wiesenthal Center. Simon Wiesenthal doesn't go for money. I suppose you guys know who the Simon Wiesenthal Center is. If you don't, they're the organization who hunts down Nazi criminals. And they're still doing it. 1945. No, I do not have contact with Simon Wiesenthal Center, but my God, through my contact with Mordechai Gur, I can certainly get to them. I don't want to have to do that, guys. Hey, man, I'm 68, man. I can't keep on working, you know. I've worked very hard, and I'm still working very hard. But yes, crazy Raymond d'Espeville. If this matter of corruption is not resolved, maybe I'll be crazy enough to sell all the things that I've got here. And I've worked very hard, and I'm very proud of how I've rebuilt myself since the age of 58. Take a trip to Israel and say, hey, you know, all right, we're not looking for Nazi hunters, but we're looking for some corrupt people. And can you tell me how we can try and do something like this? Or what
Is this consistent with reconciliation?
Yeah, you know, and I'm sure through them,
Yes,
okay, through
we
the
get
Seaman-
reconciliation. Yeah.
Through the Simon Wiesenthal Center, they would tell me, right, this is what you do. And I'm very sure they'd tell me, that's the best forensic scientists in the world, etc., etc., etc. Gentlemen, as you know, whether you like Israel or not, my God, they run an efficient little country. And yes, obviously, okay, don't get me wrong, I'm not blind to the injustices of the Palestinian people. Yes, I'm not blind to it. And okay, as I said, I'm not Israeli, it's not my problem. Okay, but I'm not blind to the failings of the Israelis as well. In fact, Mordechai Gur was a dove. Okay, he wasn't these right-wing extremists that you have today. He was Labour Party. And if he hadn't had stomach cancer, would have been prime minister before Yitzhak Rabin. Rabin, who took the bullet with that right-wing guy. My friend could have been prime minister of Israel had he not had stomach cancer. Yeah. Anyway, so, guys, we have to find a way to get all the money back. I know deals have to be struck sometimes, yes. Yes, when you want to catch a big fish, you try and catch a smaller fish, and you offer them immunity.
Yeah,
But it's got to be done.
Mr. Despeville, we don't want to cut you short, but it's way after 3 and there's somebody who's been waiting.
Yeah, okay, well,
If
well
you-
no, okay,
if you could wrap up and-
let me close off then, okay? And so, as I said, guys, yes, okay? We have to sort this out. The people, the country needs the money, and as I said, I do not want any compensation from our budget or anything like that. No, the country can't afford to pay me anything.
I know a
But
lot.
if we can recover.
Yeah, I know a lot of people say
Yeah,
that.
if we,
But-
okay, yes, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, there is money out there. There's a lot.
I mean, it's good
Country
if this.
needs, and people can be compensated.
I mean, it's good if the state can recover money if there's money that's been unjustly acquired, but human rights violations, the
Sure.
state has a responsibility. It was the state, effectively, that's responsible for these human rights violations. And I sort of look at it, where has people been compensated in the past? You know, if I give an example that comes to my mind, is in 2016 when James Michel made a statement, all those people that were in the army who left, we're now going to compensate them, who left before 2007, 8,000 compensation and then a gratuity. That was a lot of money paid to those people at that time. So when I look at those sorts of examples of compensation that have been paid, I think the taxpayer should pay compensation to people. It's a state violation. Human rights are obligations owed by states to their people. Why are all the complainants? I mean, the complainants are the ones that have been denied the resources of their country, the ability to work, the ability to, and yet they're saying we don't want the state to pay. But it's the state that denied you those things.
Yeah, but so, you know, put it this way, okay? If tomorrow I was told, okay, right, I've got to say very quickly, okay, I tried to sort this out. I went to see, the first person I went to see to try and sort out some of my grievances, there was basically 3 things. I said, right, for what I suffered in Bodco, I don't want money unless you can recover the billions from Glennie and all these other criminals and Mukesh, then give me something, all right? But otherwise, I don't want. Fast track me to a piece of land. I said, I'm 68, man. At least let me try and build my warehouse, okay, give me, I don't want any special deal. I will pay the whatever the going rate is. Give me a piece of land, I'll pay the going rate, and allow me to build my warehouse and my this and that. And Danny Four said, oh, yeah, we'll sort it out. Oh, Danny boy, the Cuban kid, 0. And I obviously ended up insulting him and saying, Nupapo Zameles Tombe, we'll wait till the thing comes. And yes, finally, it's in the process now. I hope, Minister Rangasamy, things are in train. I will be getting, I hope, a piece of land where I can build my thing and prepare, because I'm going to hand over my business to my daughter. I have some very capable daughters. I've got 2 or 3 years left, gentlemen. Okay, enough, and I have enough energy to do that and say, okay, give her guidance, and now you achieve the dream that I was never able to achieve. Okay, right? And so that,
yeah, you don't
that
want your children to suffer from the discriminations that you suffered,
yeah, no,
because we can see
won't.
that.
I mean, put it
as
this
being-
way, okay.
yeah.
As I said, all right. When I opened my little business, I have some very good partners. I'm proud to say, despite my problems with Kathy, her 2 sons are in business with me now. Okay, they're my partners, Alan and Michael. And yes, I've worked very hard, and okay, I'm all right. But you know, guys, I don't have a pension yet. I can't sort of sit back and say, right, I'm now comfortable. I earn enough. I can chill. I can this. I can that. I've got debts. I mean, when I bought this property, I've had to take a loan from the bank. I was lucky. Okay, my partners. Obviously, banks don't give 68-year-olds long-term loans. It was because of my young partners, and they know, all right, even if something happens to me tomorrow, naturally the company is strong and it will be able to meet its obligations. But you know, as I said, I mean, hey, I was denied the right to own
Exactly.
a piece of industrial land. Okay, I would have, if I'd stayed in Bodco, I'd have owned Bodco today. Right, I'd owned the controlling interest. Okay, this was denied. So, as I said, that is being put in and that is being put into place. And that was the only thing that I was expecting to get through Danny for, and then obviously Danny did nothing. I mean, letters and I ended up insulting him as I normally do. I mean, you know, Raymond d'Esperville is civil to a point, and then the spade is a spade, and I tell you exactly what I think of you, and I'll put it in writing, and I accept the consequences of my actions.
So sorry again. Now we will have to end now, but we do recognise that part of your complaint has not been presented. Did you want to reschedule the part about
Yes,
the attack?
about them killing me, yes.
Yes.
because
So
it's very
why don't
painful.
we
It's gonna take a long
reschedule?
time as well.
and
That
put-
deals with the party Seychelles days when,
Yeah.
when
Yes.
they
So
tried to kill
and that
me,
would
at
be
the underground days.
Yeah, and those underground days would also give interesting information for our final report. So let's find a time. We might have to set up another day, whether it be the 29th or the 30th of November, right? That's the Monday or the Tuesday. I believe we're not scheduled on those days, so I think we will have to put those 2 days up. So it would probably be the 29th or the 30th of November. Would that be okay for you?
Sorry?
29th or the 30th of November, would that be okay for you?
No,
No?
no. You know, I'm up to here and work.
Right, okay. So, well, you can work with Adele and find a suitable.
Aren't you going to have a sitting again next? Or you mentioned to me you're going to stop for a while.
Just for December, we won't really be sitting in these hearings, but January, February, we're sitting.
Okay, well, if you put me in for January and February,
Yeah, okay.
no, I can't take two.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay. I realize this. I understand you. I realize how stressful it is to be dragged away from your work, right? It is stressful. No, I agree. It's annoying as well.
you know.
Okay, but our apologies. We do have to end now because Mr. Wawa was waiting, and he was meant to be scheduled. He got kicked back like you got kicked back today.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well,
So sorry about that.
anyway, but as I said, guys, all right. One last thing. I have evidence of everything that I've
Yes,
said.
we would like the copies. That would be very helpful of the letters that you sent and everything. And we've got your list of witnesses and people that we can call upon.
You want to
We've got a list
you'll
of
have to
those.
photocopy
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we'll photocopy everything.
Okay, but let me just, what there's 1 second. 1 second, because there's stuff, right. For example, this was going to be my submission. This is what I was going to read from, and then, this is why I said no.
But it's always good
It's far
to have,
better,
yeah.
I was
mean,
going
if
to
you
try and write everything out.
yeah,
I said, no,
yeah.
it's just not going to work. I'm
Yeah.
just going to come and start and
Yeah.
try and logically work through things and just let it all out.
Yeah, but if you sign that submission, we could always use that. If you swear it and sign it with Adele, we can use that too with your hearing record, with that. So
What
in
if-
case
okay,
you
I
miss something.
Adele, you're
Right.
just okay. You could
But
take, and then I will tell you what is relevant, what isn't relevant.
Okay.
I'll come by sometime next week.
Yeah. Okay.
And you
great.
you can photograph whatever you want
Yeah.
in there.
Okay. So thank you again. Sorry to do this. I feel bad.
No,
but
no,
yeah.
I'm happy
Yeah.
it's over.
Okay.
And
But
guys,
we'll be seeing you again.
I want to apologize.
Yeah.
If I swore and I.
That's okay. It's meant to be good for stress, swearing, right? Google it.
No, it's
And
a sign
apparently
of-
smart
it's a
people
sign of
swear.
laziness,
Is
okay?
it?
We
No, they
swear
say
because
smart people.
We are
Google it.
too lazy to find the appropriate
Yeah,
word.
sometimes a swear word might be the appropriate word. It might.
Oh.
Anyway, so we'll adjourn now, 5
Sorry,
minutes,
who's-
and then
is
we're
this-
back.
is this
Okay?
someone else?
Right here.
All rise.
All right.